from Hong Kong Shift, Cynthia and Maxime. Hong Kong Shift is a social impact platform that aims to tell authentic stories of the people who, I'm guessing the name comes from shifts, work shifts behind the scenes, people who are often unappreciated but help the city and society to kind of function and tick. So we're delighted to have them here today. Please come up. Thank you.
Hello everyone, thanks for being here, early morning. I'm Maxime, I'm the photographer on the project, so I'm the one trying to practice my non-existing Cantonese to get people to smile.
Yeah, and I'm the one who likes to chat up all the strangers and then write up their stories.
So Cynthia and myself met 4 years ago. We were working in the same law firm, and I think it's fair to say that we were focusing a lot on our future, building our careers, and not so much on the now. So this has changed recently with Hong Kong Shifts, and so we are very happy to be having this discussion with you about the concept of now.
Yeah, so now is a very simple three-letter word. It's a word that we're all familiar with, something that's much easier to grasp than last month's theme, Kismet. But as we start preparing for the talk, we realized that it's got many layers, and we're happy to be unpeeling some of these with you today.
So let's get started with the first slide, which we got from CreativeMornings. I think this illustrates a point that is quite obvious, that if you think about it, our life is just a collection of nows, stacked one after the other. So there seems to be a lot of nows, but I think most of us will agree, especially as you get old like me, that the now cards tend to run out a lot faster than we would wish for. So we thought that it might be interesting to start this talk about now and start from the end and see what the people that are running out of now cards are telling us.
Right, so has anybody heard of the top 5 regrets of the dying? Happy Friday, everyone. So for those of you who don't know, a nurse who was working in palliative care took care of and counseled patients who had only less than 12 weeks to live. So when she asked them, how would you have lived your life differently? Their responses came back with very similar themes. So let's see if we can take some wisdom from them. The top one is, I wish I'd had the courage to live a life true to myself, not the life others expected of me.
I wish I hadn't worked so hard.
I wish I'd had the courage to express my feelings.
I wish I had stayed in touch with my dear friends.
And lastly, I wish that I had let myself be happier. So what strikes me from this list of regrets is that these are all words coming from people who were possibly not fully living in the now. So what we get from this experience is that living in the now seems to be not as straightforward as it seems. It's a skill that we were quite good at when we were kids, but somehow as we grew older, we kind of learn to unlearn it. And so we do spend a lot of time worrying about the future, worrying about our careers, our holiday plans, our family. We also do spend a lot of time in the past regretting things or hoping that things would be different, particularly relevant in the Hong Kong context. And so when we're not in the future or in the past, now TV and the other social media platforms make a very good job at keeping us distracted. So there's not much space left for us to be in the now, and it takes a lot of sweat and tears to actually be there. So how do we do it? How do we get in the now? Do we just need to delete Facebook and unsubscribe from Now TV? Do we need to just start a new career and drop everything? Well, yes, actually, in my case, I did quit my job. So for many years, I was a corporate lawyer, and I was on a hamster wheel, working very hard, and
On the outside, I was functioning really well, I was socially engaged, doing well at my job, but on the inside, I grew increasingly more and more depressed, empty, and detached. And so this was a catalyst for me to realize that I need to start listening to myself a bit more, and to turn inwards. So I started to take small steps. I started to speak with people who inspired me. I started to take some courses. I started to read up on things that I was passionate about. And then eventually, notwithstanding both external and internal pressures, I decided to leave my career as a lawyer, and to take some space and distance to reevaluate what was important to me and what my values were. And also in this time, I actually rediscovered my passion for writing, which is something that underpins all the work that I do now, including on Hong Kong shifts and other things. How about you, Maxime?
Well, I didn't go as extreme as you, so I still have a day job. But it took me a while, but I'm now happy to say that I have been able to set some time apart and create some space with Hong Kong shifts to try and live it a bit closer to what is driving me. So I remember when I was much younger, and my parents would drive me around in the streets of Brussels. I would look out through the window and see these big billboards. They were looking quite beautiful, very colorful, but I was always wondering, why is it always to sell the next shampoo or the next Decathlon outfit? Why can we not use the same billboards to try and promote ideas or trying to get people engaged in supporting things that will make this world better? So it's only 2 years into doing Hong Kong Shift that I realized that actually Hong Kong Shift was a way for me to reconnect with this idea that I had really actively tried to forget by focusing on my career as a lawyer. So when we managed to get Lake from Impact Hong Kong on a billboard in Central, that was a small moment, but that made me really happy because I was reconnecting with what was driving me. So how do we get to this space? Do we start doing yoga, meditation? How do we get to reconnect with our inner self in our now moment?
So I think actually a great way to connect with the now is to use and engage with all of our senses. Because when we're living in the past or in the future, we're actually not engaged, we're not using any of our senses. We're just ruminating in our thoughts and using our brains.
Yes, and so that reminds me of a good friend of mine, Mei Shou, that used to live in Hong Kong 2 years ago. And the one thing he would love to do in the weekend is to hop on a tram in Candy Town and ride it all the way down to Shou Kei Wan, sitting in the front row and just taking it all in, taking the noise, the colors, the people. And I would find it really strange, and I just couldn't get it. It's like, what, you're not going grocery shopping? You're not meeting with your friends? You're not even taking pics to put on your social media? What's the point? So I did try it, and it is definitely worth doing. I mean, it's a lot better on the tram than on the MTR, but really, you get to see so many things that you don't see when you focus on your next meeting or you focus on answering your email. So it does require an effort to try and be more aware of your environment. Also, a good way I discovered to try and live closer to your environment and use my 5 senses is to break our habits, get out of autopilot. Because as soon as you try something new, you try a new activity, a new route, even a new restaurant, you have to rely again on your 5 senses because autopilot mode is off. So that's a really good way of practicing that.
Well, and also it's a great way to spot opportunities. There's a misconception that opportunities are rare and hard to come by, but actually they are everywhere. We can actually sometimes create our own luck by just having an open mindset and using our senses to engage with the environment. And a big part of the environment is the people. Every person that we come across is actually an opportunity waiting to be unwrapped. It could be your new business partner, your new best friend, your new client, your new yoga teacher, like anything, which could be completely life-changing. And spotting opportunities is something that we do all the time on Hong Kong shifts. A lot of people ask us this question, which is, how do you find your interviewees? The answer to that is we don't filter or curate any of our stories, because a key message of the project is that amazing stories and words of wisdom are everywhere. You just need to be open to spotting them and to use your senses to try and establish a connection. So some of you may have seen some of our stories on social media or in physical locations, but actually not many people know the stories behind the stories. So maybe we'll share a couple of those with you today. So this is Ling, and she is a lovely sampan driver, and she works around Aberdeen. So the story behind this looks like a beautifully staged photograph, as if we've had 2 hours of a leisurely chat over a cup of tea with Ling. This is absolutely not the case. The reality was a lot less glamorous. So one afternoon we decided to go around Aberdeen, and our intention was to interview a fisherman. So we tried several times, we approached several people, and we failed miserably. We got rejected, and so after a few hours, we decided to call it a day. So we grabbed a beer and sat by the pier. And just at that moment, as we were just relaxing and about to take our first sip, this sampan just cruised in under the beautiful afternoon sunlight as if from nowhere. And I mean, we looked at each other and we thought, well, you know. I was very reluctant at first to approach Ling, because I thought, well, she's going to say no. This is absolutely not going to happen. But after some gentle nudging by Maxime, I decided to clamber over some railings, waved at Ling to get her attention, made a few jokes, and gradually she agreed to have an interview with us. And not only that, she took us on a 1-hour boat tour around Aberdeen in the sunset. And I guess the message behind all this is that sometimes opportunities arise when you're not looking for them actively. But all we have to do is just to have an open mind and to engage our senses to be able to absorb them.
Yeah, or maybe we'll skip this. Yes, this is another story, the story of Party Ban, who is working on one of these huge cargo ships. Obviously, this wasn't totally unplanned. We just didn't rock up a morning at the port, say, hi, we want to interview you. So there was a lot of work to try and get this interview. But the genesis of this story is me swimming in the ocean and deciding for once not to focus on my Strava achievement, but just look at the horizon. And I saw this huge boat, this orange boat, and I just had this urge of trying to get into that boat and trying to see what life is on that boat. It was in the middle of COVID. So the next week, we did reach out to the port authorities, we did write to a few shipping companies. They all very politely told us to go and look elsewhere. It was in the middle of COVID, and it's a very secretive world. You don't get into the port that quickly. So we just put the idea on the back burner. And then I think it was 4 or 5 months later, I was in a business meeting with my suit on, and my client just happened to be working for a shipping line. And so I should have focused on the legal stuff, but the urge was just too much. So I found a way to get him in a corner, and I told him about Hong Kong shifts and about our project, and we would love to be on the ship. So this is how we managed to get on this cargo ship in the middle of COVID, and I think we were the only 2 human beings that this 20-man strong crew had seen in 6 months. These guys have been on this ship, and nobody has let them out because of COVID. So no port, including Hong Kong, would allow them to set a foot on the ground. So that was a very interesting and hopefully also a powerful message to realize that people that work in the background are not only the people that you see on the ground, it's also people like Party Band that work on the ocean and make it possible to have all the stuff we don't need, but we think we need. So, and I guess the broader message, to tie it back with the discussion, is that opportunities are everywhere. We try to live our lives in silo. This is my work life, this is my family life, this is my let's get drunk in LKF time. But actually, these all interconnect if you keep your eyes open and your mind open. So that's I think these are the two stories.
And fast forward, and we've now interviewed 137 individuals from all walks of life. So the mission of the community project is to put the spotlight on shift workers, people who are often working very hard in the background but overlooked. And most of these, the vast majority of these people, are chance encounters. So it really requires us to practice living in the now and to engage our senses to be able to establish a connection very quickly in order to do the interviews.
Yes, so the mission of the project is, of course, to give shift workers the recognition they deserve, but it also, and I think more importantly, is to try and invite the people in the community to be a little bit more curious about the people living around you, about your environment, because there's a lot to be won if we all decide to start be a bit more engaged with the people around us, whether it's at work or whether it's at home. One thing that always strikes me is, why do we need to wait for an elevator to be stuck for neighbors to start talking to each other and realize that they actually share a lot in common and they should probably spend their weekends together? So this is all about creating opportunities to interact without having to be stuck on an elevator.
And often, however, a lot of people find it difficult to engage with a stranger, as I did for many, many years. But when we have social interactions, we often follow certain set rules and social conventions in the way we interact with a new person. But Hong Kong Shifts has taught us that actually the element of surprise and breaking outside of this mold that we put ourselves in is a great way to be able to establish a connection with someone else quite quickly. So, having said that, we are going to now make you do a bit of work. So we would like you to engage with someone, probably who you've never met before, someone sitting near you, and to discuss for 3 questions the following, in 3 minutes, the following question. In what ways are you crazy? So this is not something that we're used to answering.
So just find a stranger and just let's get going.
3 minutes. Sorry to interrupt, guys.
Sorry to interrupt. It seems to be working.
I guess we're all a bit crazy in our own ways.
That's a lot of crazy.
Great. Well, yes. Sorry to interrupt. I hope this was fun. Usually, when we do that with schools, we do have a lot more time, but it's giving some interesting results. Let's focus now, unless someone wants to contribute something about this experience right now. Okay. Well, you don't want to share what's crazy about everyone. Another aspect of now is not only like feeling the now, is acting now. There's a sense of urgency in the now, and I think that's what we want to focus on.
So often we all have our passions and projects, but we tend to put them aside and have excuses to delay them until we have the right resources, until we're mentally and emotionally ready, until we get the validation and support from people who are important to us. But actually that moment may never arrive. So there's no better time to do it than right now. And also, so changes don't have to be in a big bang format. Living in the now is a bit about taking small incremental steps towards a goal. And sometimes you don't even need to know what the end goal is or where it might take you. Just knowing that every step that you're taking, every small step that you're taking is in line with your authentic self can be enough, and then trust the process to take you where it will take you.
Yeah, and that is true. When we remember how this project started, the project was literally 3 years ago. let's go and grab a cup of coffee and speak with Mei Feng, the security guard working down my building. That was the extent of the project. We had no idea this thing would become a social enterprise where we would be working with NGOs, schools, corporates. The only thing that I know for sure now is that if we hadn't taken this first step, which didn't make a lot of sense, I would still be commuting between Shenyang and Jardine House with my suit on and being content with my life without asking any questions. So it's really about taking the first step. So we all have a lot of excuses to not take this first step. One which particularly resonates to me because I'm probably one of the oldest in the audience today. It's like, yeah, it's nice, but it's too late. I'm too old. I should have done that 20 years ago. Well, this says it all. This is actually a quote that Mark Swinkles mentioned. The best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. The second best time is now. It's exactly true. And we live in a time and in an environment where it's quite easy to start something new or to even combine different activities. Another excuse that we sometimes hear and that I have been using for most of my life is uncertainty. It's like, yeah, okay, I want to do something, but I want to make sure that I have all aspects covered before I start. I used, and I'm still quite an anxious person, and I was quite risk adverse for the longest time. And so I wouldn't do anything without knowing everything about it. I mean, even going to get a gym subscription, I would have like a 2-hour chat with the guy to know all the details, the fine print. I wasn't leading me anywhere. So I think I've now come to grasp with the idea that uncertainty is part of life and we should just embrace it. And if there's one thing that this COVID mess has taught us, one positive, is that, yes, I mean, there's a lot of uncertainty, so relax. Everything is uncertain and it's going to work out in the end.
Another very popular mental block that we have is our big fear of failure. And that's something that I've struggled with for a very long time. And it's something that blocked me from taking the first step to try anything new. But to live in the now, we really need to step outside of our comfort zones and to take risks. And also to try and adopt a growth mindset such that we see every setback and failure as a learning opportunity.
Yes, and speaking of a growth mindset, once you start living in the now and start with your feeling and decide to get into action, there's a sense of accountability because you cannot hide behind your screens or think or tell yourself you will change the world tomorrow. You just have to start now. And obviously the world around us is not always pretty. There's a lot of things that need to be fixed. And once you decide to be in the now, you just have no choice but take a stake and sometimes voice your opinion. And I think that is a big part of what is living in the now also meaningful. And that's something that I, for the first time, experienced doing Hong Kong shifts. I have to take a stake, and I believe that at a very small scale, I'm doing probably something more meaningful than just working as a lawyer and in a comfortable environment. So to conclude, because it's time for you to go back to work, living in the now is all about, it's a great way of living a more meaningful and happier life. So I wish we could force ourselves to be like this guy, go back to our childhood and trying to live in the moment, making use of our senses and connect with the people around us.
Yeah, so we would invite you to write your own story now.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Guys, thank you so much. At the end of the session, we generally open the floor up for a little Q&A. Clicky click. There we go. So, does anybody have some questions?
Hi, thanks very much for that session. That was very interesting. So I get the benefit of telling stories and drawing attention to a lot of the invisible people, but you also speak about some of the social work you do. Can you tell us a bit about what is that social work and how Hong Kong is benefiting from that? I'd love to hear.
Yeah, so from a storytelling platform on social media, we've slowly and organically evolved into a social enterprise. So the core of Hong Kong Shifts is that we want to use storytelling as a tool to connect humans and different groups and get people to build empathy as well. And we do that through working on different projects such as storytelling campaigns. So we work with corporates and we also work with schools and other NGOs as well. So
Yes, so the visible part of the project is the one you see on social media, but where it gets really interesting for us is when we go into these schools and we get the kids to practice some of the skills that we uncovered doing the project, the listening skill, the empathy skill, and so these are skills that are relevant for them, whether it's in their school environment or outside. And I remember at one of our first workshops with schools, we asked the question to the kids, how often do you speak with your neighbors? And coming from Europe, I thought it would be 50-50, but actually I think there's one kid that said, yes, I have spoken with my neighbor before, but all the rest, they would never even think of doing that. And for me, that showed there's a lot of work to be done. And so that's one example of what we do.
Thank you. Anyone else have a question? Questions? Cool. Okay. In that case, we'll draw today's session to a close. Thank you so much, everyone, for coming. There is still some great coffee at the back of the room. We have the space until 10 a.m., so please feel free to mingle and stay a little longer. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.